Rub the sole down with xylene. I don't know if that's just dust coming off of it or if it's actually removing some material or what, but so make sure it's nice and clean. Okay. And then the other thing that I can hopefully do, right one? Yeah. So basically I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to center it front to back and put a couple of pin marks on the leather. God, this one's... does not look good. Okay. Man, that's barely any room if we're getting close to the stitching, but what are you gonna do? All right. I hope you're aimed well enough. It didn't look like you are. How about that? Okay, I'm going to start it at the back, I think. Get on my pin mark. And hopefully I can center this thing well enough. Stick it. Okay, so see how we still have that. This is what I'm doing here. It must be cinched pretty well in the middle, but once I do the welt press around the outside edge, that should cinch that up nicely. So if we look at a side profile of this, you can see once this excess leather gets trimmed off and you compare the outside edge of this to the stitching, I'd like to be 1/8 of an inch past that. I think we look pretty good there if I've got the right vantage point for you. Same thing in the front. It's not bad. And then of course everything else is pretty well centered. So now I'll just let this thing sit overnight, let the green bit of the glue come out of it and basically cure up a little bit, and then yeah, we'll take it to the belt sander and basically sand all this to... What I'll probably do is I'll sand the front so that it's flush with the rubber on the front and back, and then I'll just match whatever that distance ends up being from the stitching all the way around. So yeah, So far so good. Okay, so as stated, we're going to start by doing the toe and the heel, get that excess leather off until we've got it nice and flush. Probably shoot for 1/8 of an inch past the stitches. I'll do all these outside curves like this on the belt sander, and then all these inside curves I'll have to use the edge over here. I'll get you set up in a different view for that, hopefully. That's a lot harder because you gotta pull that upper away and make sure you don't get into it. It's hair raising. So anyway, let's start by doing this, and then when I've got that flush and looking good, then I'll just match everything else to that. So okay, I don't know if I'm far away enough, but a lot of that looks pretty good. Obviously not towards the back. I'll keep working on that, but we're getting there. That's about what we're shooting for. They look pretty symmetrical. So basically, I'm going to keep working on this part here to get that with along with the rest of it. It's really hard to do these outside curves on this edge here because it's like an outside curve going in an outside curve. Like, it's real easy to get what I call little drum stops. So I'll probably put that up on top and do more of this kind of action. But yeah, we're getting there. And then I'll swap this. This is an 80 grit, so I'll swap this out for the 120 and do the final burnishing on this. And then I'll hand sand it with 150. Guys are probably hand sanding this with a lot higher grit than that, but I could get a higher grit. I've got some at the other shop, but 150 will be fine. It's what I've been using. And then we'll do the edge dressing and we'll be done with this. So okay, so we've got it shaped well enough. It seems to match the other shoe just fine. So it's also been 120'd. And I do not have one of those fancy beveling things. So what I've been doing is just taking my knife and putting my thumb like right there, just to make sure I don't get the tip too far over, and I just kind of do one of these to get all that fuzzy off of there. So now I'm just going to sand it with 150, and we'll tape off the sole and do some edge dressing. Alright, now, since I'm using a brown, is that what it is? I'm using Feibings brown edge dressing, and then I'm actually going to go ahead and wax it. I don't know where it is, it doesn't matter. with light brown, Angelus light brown shoe wax polish. I want to tape off this white cream colored sole so that we get that nice crisp edge. And now if you look right there, it kind of bleeds through the tape, which I knew that was going to happen, and so I tried to make sure that the dauber was kind of padded off really well, and it still didn't matter. It still kind of went through there, so it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. That thing still looks great. Nobody's going to look that close. So let's try it again. Let's see how it works this time. Tape wasn't really wanting to stick to this rubber either, which sucks. Every time there's a wrinkle in it, that's a spot where that stuff can bleed through, so trying to flatten those down, but it doesn't look like it's really working. So we're gonna get some bleed through. That's fine. Okay, now let's make sure this stuff is really pad off this dauber so it's not so wet. Yeah, it's gonna bleed through. I can just tell. Oh well. And then Angelus light brown. Just wax it up, polish it with the brush, and we'll be done. This doesn't really seem to change the color very much, but there were some spots where the edge dressing didn't really sink in all the way, and this kind of fills those in and gives it a, kind of just evens everything out, I guess. I don't know. So now let's go ahead and just wipe all that off. I don't really get why people go, just do it. Like, I don't know, I don't get it. Probably a reason for it. I'm no shoe shine. Alright, now let's see how much bleed through we got. Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Wow. Oh well. Well, there you have it. There's a pair of these, shoot, I forgot the name of them. They're like 2143s or something. Resoled. So, yeah. Looking forward to wearing them. One thing I do still want to do, actually, is replace these elastics. They are very old and very worn out. This thing has a lot of heel slip because when you bend forward, nothing's holding the back up, and so it just slips straight down. Like it just the sole wants to hold it straight out. But yeah. So just as a recap here, what we've done is we've taken these Redwing, I think they're 2143s. Really crappy cemented construction shoes. Converted them to 360-degree flat welts, leather midsole, Dr. Soul's wedge sole on the outside, with a 6-7 iron veg tan leather insole, cork filler, fiberglass shanks, and here it is. Can't wait to wear them. Anyway.